So this weekend, I sat down, I picked up RoboCop Rogue City, put a good few hours into it, and I wanted to get an impressions video out for you guys, really kind of getting the lowdown on, is it actually worth buying? And is it actually a game that you'll enjoy? Such as, if you like this game, this is maybe why you like this, and other things, rather than just giving you a score and just my overall opinion on it. But I will obviously give you some of my opinion as well. So with RoboCop Rogue City, it's created by Teon. They are the guys who made the Rambo game back on PS3 that you may or may not have played. But they also created the Terminator Resistance game that I think a lot of people were quite positive on. There was some negativity, but it did get a kind of next-gen re-release, and a lot of people did like that. So I haven't tried it myself, so not too sure. But yeah, they did well, supposedly on that, a lot better than they did on the Rambo game. So I'm not a huge RoboCop fan. I have seen the first movie somewhat recently. I've watched it when I was a child, but I watched it maybe in the past 7 years. Second movie I can't remember, and the third movie, God, I have no chance of remembering. But I enjoyed the reboot. But basically the story with RoboCop Rogue City, it's set between the events of RoboCop 2 and 3, and you once again, surprise surprise, are actually playing as RoboCop, and you're coming up against a new crime lord. What's cool here is you have kind of some of the original voice cast. I'm not too sure who, but you'll have the likes of, I think it's Peter Weller, who played RoboCop in the movies, reprising his voice, and then you have the likes of, oh God, if we're getting it, but the girl from RoboCop, your sidekick, your partner, and then obviously some people from around the department, essentially the police department, as you will. So yeah, it's quite cool to kind of get that back, and I love when they do this with games, in terms of even having the Terminator game there, or having the Ghostbusters games. There's obviously more franchises that I personally grew up liking that it'd be cool to have, and obviously see them do that again with different things from the 80s and 90s, you know. So I think it's quite cool and fair play. So it is interesting and exciting to get a RoboCop game. So if you are a RoboCop fan, you are most likely in your element right now. So first up, let's talk performance. I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. It defaults to quality mode. Obviously, I've turned that shit right over to performance, which tries to hit 60. It's a bit softer than the quality mode, which I believe is probably targeting 4K res. Trying to hit 60, it doesn't seem to hit it consistently, but it's not too bad. But if you have a PC with a decent graphics card, I'd probably say that's the best place to play it. I do kind of regret not playing it there. Obviously, with a first-person shooter as well, I prefer it on a keyboard and mouse. But no, in terms of how it holds up, it's fine. It's not perfect, but it's happy enough. You're going to be fine playing it there with that amount of performance. Graphically, I'll say this, the game did surprise me. Visually, it looks pretty fucking good. Really gives you like an 80s atmosphere. It gives me a lot more that kind of gives me the style of what I would like from Cyberpunk to actually have looked like quality-wise. Obviously, it's not futuristic per se in that sense. It's more like the 80s grungy, dirty look that you would have got in the original RoboCop and those types of 80s films, especially like punk rockers and things. But it does look very, very impressive. Graphically, very impressive in the environments. Character models, they're not bad, but what it does have is it has pretty dodgy looking facial animation in terms of lip syncs all over the place, and it kind of takes you out of it. So they kind of have that dead look behind their eyes, so the characters are talking to you, but they look just lifeless. It's quite weird, but it does look decent. It looks at times fucking phenomenal, and then sometimes it does kind of look like an up-resed PlayStation 3 game. So there's a whole kind of dichotomy of what it does look like at its best, and then what it kind of looks like at its worst. And on average though, it's very, very impressive. One thing that really does stand out and kind of shows the quality of the game in terms of not being a AAA game, the voice acting is very poor. It takes you completely out of the game.
Would you really do that for me? Way to go, TJ!
Don't know what it was. It was just hearing the characters' voices. You can tell it's a voice actor portraying them. And with it not kind of syncing up with how they're talking, it's just really jarring. Like, the voice acting here at times is okay, but overall it's somewhat lacking. Peter Weller, who redid his voice, he doesn't sound terrible. I can't even remember how he sounded in the original RoboCop. Obviously, he's probably about fucking 80 now. But nothing too bad. But in terms of the side characters, the NPCs, the voice acting here could definitely use a step up. Now, being RoboCop feels fucking cool as hell. You do feel like a machine. The sound, even when you're walking, that robotic feel, but that thump as you land on the ground during your steps, fantastic. It really gives you a feeling of being an unstoppable machine. But I really enjoy that part of the kind of game, and even though you're just kind of walking straight into enemies and you don't kind of fear for anything, you're just obliterating everything in your path. You can pick enemies up and throw them, and it has the most satisfying headshots in a long time that I've heard in the game. It's right up there with the sniper rifle shot in the Gears of War games. You're just popping heads off and it's just making this lovely squishy noise. So in terms of the shooting aspect, you have a pistol that has kind of a burst shot. I was happy to just use that. There is other weapons that you can use, but even just using that pistol, I was having a blast. Absolutely fantastic combat. So if you are in the gunplay in games, this is quite fun. And obviously feeling that you are RoboCop does it extremely well. So a big thumbs up for me in that point. And there's a good bit of interactivity with kind of objects around you. So you can pick obviously people up, you can throw them against walls, you can pick up objects, monitors from PCs, for example, and throw them at people. And even kind of the environment. There's a destructible environment, which is extremely cool. I haven't seen it since something like that since Red Faction Guerrilla. So you can kind of blast down walls and see kind of walls getting blasted right beside you, which is amazing. It was well done. So props to those guys for that. I really enjoyed seeing that, and you don't get that in a lot of games. It's strange because that was something that was well done in Bad Company 2 back on the 360, the Battlefield game, but you just don't get that a lot anymore. And I think having it here kind of took me aback because it's just something that is very rare that you see in a game, especially a single player game. So the moment-to-moment story with the game is you'll have a kind of a main mission that will progress the story forward. But in the main missions, there's kind of areas that you can go and have a look about with. So for example, when you're in the police station, and in the police station, there's certain things that you can do, such as helping someone open a locker, or helping someone sign a get well soon card, or even going down and doing like a shooting challenge in the firing range. So there's a lot of different kind of side activities that do something for world building. If you're into that sort of thing, obviously the main story's there if you just kind of want to push on. I did do some side content, but in terms of the grand scale of things, I just kept pushing on with the main story, which seems to be quite decent. So keep that in mind if you are a person who likes to do everything. There is some things to do to pad out the game. Probably not as much as you would like, maybe not as much as you even want, but even at that, there is kind of things to keep the game a wee bit longer for you if you want to stay in the world for longer. And the side content, it doesn't just build the lore for you. So for example, by doing the side content, you get access to experience, which will allow you to upgrade the skill tree in the game. So the skill tree in the game is basically perk based. So you have, for example, a section for vitality, which can increase health and other factors. And then some for things like detective modes, breaking into certain safes as you will. And how to kind of deduct, I think it's actually called deduction, and all these different kind of traits that you can level. So you are rewarded if you do the side content. You don't have to do it, but you are rewarded, so it's kind of not a afterthought. So if you're the type of person that likes to see everything, happy days, you'll at least be able to level up RoboCop further. There's also some chests throughout the map or the areas, and in the chest you kind of get these materials that allow you to upgrade your weapons. And there's kind of a weird puzzle looking game, and I'm not going to try to explain it because explaining it off the top of my head would be the worst thing in the world. But you should be able to see it on the screen at the moment. But basically what you're trying to do is sort out this flow through the puzzle. And if you're hitting all the kind of checkpoints as you will, that'll kind of upgrade and give you buffs at each part. But you kind of don't want to hit into the negative buffs either, or that'll make the weapons worse. So there's that there as well. So looking throughout the map and exploring gives you a bit of an incentive to do so. So throughout my time with the game, I've kind of had a back and forth whether I really enjoy the game or is it just something that I'm not too into. What's weird is if you are a Fallout fan, and this is probably the weirdest comparison to make, but if you have a look at the screen, it screams Fallout in terms of the UI, which you'll see on in front of you, but even goes beyond that. So for example, the character interaction with the NPCs and the story moments, it is very Fallout-esque. There is kind of choices that you can make with RoboCop that dictate the character going forward, but it is very Fallout inspired, not only with obviously the gameplay elements in certain sections with, for example, you're finding elements throughout the map with notepads that is very inspirational from the likes of Fallout, or even in Starfield recently, where it adds to the world building. But even just sound effects, there's a sound effect when you shoot someone in the head that sounds like a FATS shot from Fallout 3. So you can definitely tell the guys here took some inspiration with Fallout. And look, if you're a person who enjoys, I would say like the Wolfenstein games and the Fallout games, this game here, and if you're definitely, if you are a fan of RoboCop, you're going to like this nonetheless. But if you do enjoy Fallout and you enjoy the likes of Wolfenstein and kind of that kind of combat, I actually think you really, really enjoy this game. With me, myself, I just don't think it's something that I'm going to spend too much time with. I did think it was okay, but there's that many good games out there at the moment to play that with this, it doesn't do enough for me personally to want to kind of drive me on. Story could pick up, story could be somewhat interesting, it seems okay, but at the moment to where I'm at, it just felt like more than a chore to play rather than something that I really wanted to play. It's not a bad game because a lot of people do like it. I think it's sitting currently as overwhelmingly positive or very positive on Steam. So I am in the minority on that, but like I said, not every game's going to be for everyone, but for myself, there's just so much to play. So Like I said, if you are a fan of Fallout and shooter games, I think this game is right up your alley, so you should definitely give it a go. If it's not and you're kind of apprehensive, I would wait till it goes on sale. You know, I bought it at £50. It's a hard cost at that price when you have Alan Wake at the same price, but once it comes down to maybe £25, £30, definitely a game to pick up. So if you're playing RoboCop Rogue City, let us know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts if you do enjoy the game. Like I said, it's just not for me. It doesn't mean it's not for everyone. But yeah, let us know in the comments below, and if you like the video, like and subscribe.